Forget $1 million. The number where compounding actually catches fire is lower than that. A lot lower. And I'm about to give you the exact figure. But first, I need to show you why your own brain is going to fight you on believing it. Here's the trap. Your brain is wired for linear growth, not exponential. You save $100, your balance goes up $100. Simple. You walk a mile, you feel the distance move under your feet. But that is not how compounding works, and that mismatch is exactly why most people quit right before the explosion happens. Stick with me. In the next few minutes, I'll show you the exact dollar amount where this flips in your favor, and I'll walk you through the math live so you can check it against your own account. Quick test. A lily pad in a pond doubles in size every day. On day 30, it covers the whole pond. What day is it half covered? Day 29. Which means on day 28, it's only a quarter covered. Day 27, an eighth. For 27 out of 30 days, that pond looks basically empty. Then, in the last 3 days, it fills completely. That's not a trick question. That's how every exponential curve behaves, including the one sitting quietly in your brokerage account right now, whether you're checking it every day or not. Now, here's the uncomfortable part. Check your own portfolio right now in your head. If it feels like nothing is happening, that's not failure. That's day 27. And I'm going to show you exactly how many days you have left. The median American 401k balance is about $38,000. You look at that, you look at $1 million, and the gap feels impossible. But the real fire doesn't start at $1 million. It starts at a number 60 to 70% lower than that. And most people quit 1 to 2 years before they reach it. If you want the exact number and not the vague version everyone else gives you, stay with me because I'm going to walk you through the math step by step with real numbers, not motivational hand-waving. Here's what's actually driving this. Since 1928, the S&P 500 has returned about 10% a year on average, dividends included. That's NYU Stern status set, nearly a century of data, through wars, depressions, crashes, and pandemics. Strip out reinvested dividends and it drops to about 8%. Dividends are the silent engine that turns a good return into a great one. The index itself is a kind of self-cleaning pool. When one company stumbles and gets too small, it gets dropped and replaced by a stronger one. That mechanism is part of why the long-term trend keeps pointing up decade after decade. There's a shortcut for what 10% actually means for you. The rule of 72. Divide 72 by your return and you get how many years your money takes to double. At 10%, that's 7.2 years. The exact math is closer to 7.27, but the rule gets you close enough. That's the clock ticking quietly in the background of every account you own, whether you're watching it or not. Now, do this with me right now. Say you have $80,000 invested. 7 years, it becomes $160,000. That first doubling added $80,000. 14 years, $320,000. That one added $160,000. 21 years, $640,000. That one added $320,000. 28 years, $1,280,000. That last one added more than the first 3 doublings. Combined. That's not a metaphor, that's arithmetic. And it means the first doubling, the slowest, most boring one, the one that barely moves the number on your screen, is the one that makes every other doubling possible. Skip it, and none of the rest ever happens. Now, before you get too excited, I need to slow this down for a second, because that 10% figure hides something important. It's a nominal number. It doesn't account for inflation. Your real return, the actual growth in what your money can buy, has averaged closer to 6.8% since 1928. At that rate, your purchasing power doubles roughly every 10.5 years instead of 7. So the fire is real, but part of it gets eaten by the rising cost of living alongside it. That's why the number I'm about to give you isn't a fantasy figure. It already accounts for that. $1 million in 20 years will not buy what $1 million buys today, and pretending otherwise is how people end up disappointed even after doing everything right. I promised you the real number. We're getting there. But first, you need to see why almost nobody actually reaches it. Vanguard's 2025 report puts the median 401k at $38,136. The average is $148,153. That gap tells you something important. Most people are nowhere close to the point where the market starts doing the heavy lifting for them. Half of all savers have less than $38,000 put away. At 10% return, that generates about $3,800 a year. That's a few nice dinners, not a wealth-building force. You look at that number, you look at the $1,000,000 target, and it feels like you're standing still. But you're not standing still. You're in the pre-explosion phase, and the only way out is through. Here's what that invisible decade actually feels like in practice. Say you save $500 a month. After 7 years of saying no to dinners out, driving the older car, skipping the weekend trips, you've got somewhere around $60,000 to $65,000. Your brain does the quick math. 7 years of sacrifice for that? You could have saved close to that in a year and a half in a plain savings account with zero market risk. So people quit. They stop contributing or they cash out entirely and walk away. Here's the part that should make you angry. At that same rate, you'd hit $100,000 around year 9 or 10. That first doubling from $50,000 to $100,000 takes your annual growth from about $10,000 a year to roughly $20,000 a year. The account starts earning you what amounts to a part-time income automatically every year without you doing anything. Vanguard's own data shows the typical plan participant has only been in their plan for 5 to 6 years. Most people are quitting in year 7 or 8, right before the bend in the curve. The voice telling you to quit is loudest exactly when the math is about to turn in your favor. And it isn't only the slow years that eat people alive. It's what happens the moment their income actually grows. Studies on lifestyle inflation show that 60 to 80% of any raise gets silently absorbed into upgraded spending within about a year. A nicer apartment, a newer car lease, another subscription, dinners out instead of at home. None of it feels reckless in the moment. Each upgrade feels earned, even proportional. But every dollar absorbed into a slightly nicer lifestyle is a dollar that never gets the chance to double. A $500 a month increase in spending doesn't cost you $500 a month. Invested at 10% for even 10 years, that same $500 a month would have grown into roughly $100,000. The upgrade you don't notice is quietly the most expensive decision you make all year, and you never see the bill because it never arrives as a single charge. It arrives as a doubling that simply never happened. Let me make this real with someone specific. Margaret is 45. She's got $80,000 saved. She sees the $1,000,000 target everywhere, compares herself to it, and feels like she already missed her shot. She didn't save aggressively in her 20s, and now the gap between $80,000 and $1,000,000 feels like proof she waited too long. Here's what Margaret doesn't see. She's 4 doublings away from $1.28 million. $80,000 becomes $160,000 in about 7 years. $160,000 becomes $320,000. $320,000 becomes $640,000. $640,000 becomes $1.28 million. That last doubling alone adds $640,000, more than she will ever contribute from her paycheck across her entire working life. Margaret isn't behind. She's standing on the launch pad, and the launch pad works the same way no matter what your balance is today, no matter how far behind the internet has convinced you that you are. Now, here's a comparison that makes the whole thing undeniable. Picture 2 people. One starts saving $5,000 a year at age 25. She does that for exactly 10 years, then stops completely. Total contributed $50,000. The other starts at 35, saves the same $5,000 a year for 30 straight years until he's 65. Total contributed $150,000, 3 times as much. At age 65, assuming the historical average holds, she has more money than he does. Her early dollars had 30 extra years to compound. They doubled roughly 4 more times than his later dollars ever could. The boring years of her 20s, when the balance barely moved and it felt like nothing was happening, were actually the most powerful years of her entire investing life. Time beats size. time beats how much money you throw at it later. The only thing that beats time is starting earlier, and you cannot go back and do that. That's not a motivational line. It's the actual mechanics of how doubling works. So where does the fire actually start? Charlie Munger talked about the struggle of the first 100,000, and most people misread that as the crossover happens at 100K. It doesn't. Do the actual math with me. A $300,000 portfolio earning 10% generates $30,000 in growth in year one alone. The typical household saving consistently, their own contribution plus an employer match, puts in around $20,000 a year. At $300,000, the market is now handing you $10,000 more than you're putting in yourself. The market becomes the senior partner. Your paycheck becomes the junior partner. That crossover point, where growth overtakes your own contributions, lands somewhere between $250,000 and $350,000, depending on your exact savings rate. Not 100,000, not a million. That's the real number. And Vanguard's data shows only about 1 in 6 savers ever gets there, because most people quit during the flat years, right before the math turns in their favor. To put that in perspective, look at what different balances actually feel like year to year, in real dollars showing up in your account. A $20,000 portfolio earns you about $2,000, a few nice dinners, nothing more. A $100,000 portfolio earns you about $10,000. Noticeable, but still less than most people are contributing themselves. At $300,000, you're earning $30,000 a year. That's a second part-time income showing up automatically every single year, whether you work or not. At $700,000, it's $70,000 a year. That starts to feel like a full salary. At $1 million, it's $100,000 a year, generated without lifting a finger. Most people never experience the $300,000 stage because they already quit during the years when it looked like nothing was happening. Now, before you close this, thinking, sure, if the market cooperates, I need to show you what happens when it doesn't, because it happened before, and it will happen again. And the way you respond to it decides everything. From January 2000 to December 2009, the S&P 500's annualized return, dividends included, was basically flat. That's the second time since the 1920s that a full decade produced a negative total return. The other was the 1930s. Imagine doing everything right for 10 straight years and ending up with less than you started after inflation. That's not a hypothetical. That happened to real people who were in the middle of their own invisible decade, doing everything the spreadsheets told them to do, watching the number go nowhere for an entire decade. But here's what separated the people who made it from the people who didn't. In 2008 alone, the market dropped over 50% from its peak. The people who panicked, who pulled their money out to stop the bleeding, locked in the loss permanently. The people who stayed in, who kept contributing through the crash, who bought more shares when prices were down instead of running from them, got the recovery that followed. Over 15% annualized from 2009 through 2019. By 2013, the market had fully recovered. By 2019, it had more than doubled from the pre-crash peak. The people who quit in 2008 missed the entire rebound. The crash was a discount, only if you had the stomach to hold through it and keep buying when everyone around you was panicking. This is exactly why the flat years matter so much, and why they're not actually flat underneath the surface. Every dollar you contribute during a downturn buys you more shares at a lower price. Those extra shares are the ones that do the heaviest lifting once the recovery comes. The investors who build the biggest accounts aren't the ones who time the market perfectly. Nobody times it perfectly. They're the ones who kept showing up every single month, especially during the months it felt pointless, especially during the months the news told them to be afraid. There's one more threat worth naming because it shows up after you've already lit the fire, not before. Once your account starts compounding seriously, fees stop being a rounding error. A 1% annual advisory fee sounds small. On a portfolio compounding at 7% over 30 years, that 1% fee alone can shrink your ending balance by roughly a quarter. On $300,000, that's not a few dollars, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars in growth that simply never happens because the fee is extracted before it ever gets the chance to double. Ask whoever manages your money one blunt question. What is my total cost in actual dollars per year, not as a percentage? If they can't answer that in plain language in under a minute, that silence is your answer. The habits that get you to the crossover number and the habits that protect you after you cross it are almost the same habit. Pay attention to what's quietly leaving the account, not just what's coming in. There's a second leak that nobody warns you about either, and it hides in plain sight on your pay stub. It's called reference drift. When your income rises, your comparison group rises with it. You move to a slightly nicer neighborhood where everyone else also just got promoted, and suddenly you feel behind again, even though your account is objectively bigger than it was a year ago. The research on this calls it the Easterlin paradox. Your satisfaction with your income is almost entirely relative to the people around you, not the absolute number on the screen. The game resets every time you level up, and social media makes it worse by turning your comparison group into the entire planet's highlight reel, instead of just your actual neighbors. Your brain can't tell the difference between a real peer and a curated stranger online. It registers the gap either way. And that feeling of being behind is exactly what pushes people to spend the raise instead of letting it compound. So here's what actually works in practice if you want to be one of the people who makes it to the explosion instead of quitting 1 year before it happens. First, automate your contributions so they leave your account before you ever see the money and get tempted to spend it. The gap between what you earn and what you invest should be a decision you make once, not a fight you have every single month. Second, know your own numbers, your expense ratios, your advisory fees, your total costs in real dollars, not percentages, because a portfolio can be growing and quietly leaking at the same time, and most people never once add up what they're actually paying. Third, when the market drops, do nothing. Let the automation keep buying. The doublings that come after a crash are often the biggest ones of all, and they only happen if you're still in the market to catch them. Fourth, the moment your income goes up, raise your automatic contribution before you raise your spending. Even sending half of any raise straight into your investment account before you ever feel it land in your checking account quietly protects an entire doubling you would have otherwise absorbed into a nicer apartment or a newer car. So stop counting your dollars. Start counting your doublings. At $250,000, you're 2 doublings from $1 million. At $125,000, you're 3 doublings away. At $62,000, you're 4. A 25-year-old with $20,000 needs about 8 doublings, roughly 56 months, to reach $1 million. A 45-year-old with $100,000 only needs 4 doublings, about 29 months. The older you are, the fewer doublings you actually need, because your starting base is already bigger. The exponential curve doesn't care where you start. It only cares how many doublings you let it run without interrupting it. Think about what that actually means for you, right now. Today, sitting wherever you're watching this, whatever your current balance is, it maps to a specific number of doublings between you and a number that would change your life. Not a vague someday, a specific count. 2 more, 3 more, 4 more. Each one takes roughly 7 years if history holds, and each one is bigger than every doubling that came before it combined. The math doesn't care how far away it feels right now. It only cares whether you're still in the market when the doubling happens. If you want the full breakdown of how to actually survive the flat years without panic selling, the exact withdrawal math for later, and the traps that wreck people right before they reach the crossover, I put the entire framework into something called the exit code. Links below if you want it. So here's a question that actually matters, the one I asked you back at the start. Forget the million. How many doublings do you have left? Do that math right now in the comments, using your real balance. I'll tell you if you're closer than you think.